On March 7, 1971, this man delivered a broadcast that reached the furthest corners of rural Bangladesh. It was a call to resistance that turned quiet villages into the front lines of a war for independence. In the village of Madhabpur, a young girl named Taramon was already known for a rare kind of nerve. While others retreated, she would reach into the tall grass to catch wild snakes with her bare hands. That local reputation for bravery was tested when the Pakistani military and their collaborators arrived. The peace of the village was replaced by systematic raids and the constant sound of gunfire. This image shows the immediate result of those raids: displaced families forced into camps with nothing but the mats they sat on. As traditional village structures collapsed, the local men found themselves outgunned and often unable to protect their own families. In response, secret camps like this one began appearing in the jungle. Led by a local commander named Muhib, these Mukti Bahini fighters were mostly untrained villagers attempting to build a guerrilla force from scratch. They faced a professional army while lacking heavy equipment, a high troop count, and most importantly, any reliable data on where the enemy was actually stationed. Taramon was brought into this camp not to fight, but to cook. Commander Muhib recruited her for domestic chores, keeping her strictly confined to the kitchen area. At this stage, the resistance viewed the war as a masculine task. By keeping women like Taramon tied to the cooking pots, they were overlooking the tactical potential of the very people living in their camp. Taramon did not stay by the stove. She spent her days watching the male fighters maintain their equipment, memorizing the way they handled their rifles. She eventually moved from watching to participating, picking up the oily rags to clean the firing pins and barrels herself. This is a Sten submachine gun. Taramon eventually demanded that the men show her how to actually operate it, displaying a natural, unpolished aptitude for the weapon's mechanics. Despite the initial skepticism of the men, her progress was rapid. She learned to strip, clean, and fire the automatic weapons with more precision than many of the new recruits. Taramon's refusal to accept a domestic role provided the resistance with a specific psychological advantage. Her presence allowed the camp to rethink how they could approach an enemy that didn't view her as a threat. Taramon decided to put this advantage to use by infiltrating the local Pakistani military camp. She tore her clothes and rubbed dirt into her skin, posing as a mentally unstable beggar to get past the perimeter. She used the soldiers' disgust against them. Because they underestimated her and found her appearance repellent, they allowed her to wander through their base without suspicion. While she feigned madness, she was mentally mapping the base. She counted exactly 15 to 17 soldiers stationed at the outpost. She continued her count by locating the armory and guard posts, identifying 21 separate weapons and their exact locations within the camp. These small wooden boats are a common sight on the rivers near Madhabpur. Taramon used a vessel like this to lure 2 Pakistani soldiers onto the water under the cover of night. Once they reached the middle of the river, Taramon capsized the boat. The soldiers drowned in the dark water, and Taramon successfully recovered their firearms for her unit. This transition from scouting to combat secured her position. The camp now relied on her ability to enter spaces where a traditional soldier would be immediately spotted. This image shows Mukti Bahini fighters celebrating a successful operation. When Taramon returned with captured rifles and specific intelligence, she was accepted by the fighters not as a cook, but as a peer. However, the war was far from over. Atrocities against the local villagers continued, and the Pakistani forces remained well entrenched. The intelligence Taramon provided, combined with the weapons she secured, and a new group of reinforcements from Ralmari, shifted the local balance of power. Firepower alone was not enough to defeat a professional military. It was the specific data gathered through civilian espionage that allowed the Mukti Bahini to plan a successful assault on the base at Madhabpur. Taramon's story provides a window into the wider scale of the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. Standard histories of the war often categorize women as either victims of the conflict or as secondary support staff. This photograph of a lone fighter looking toward the horizon serves as a reminder of the women who operated as active spies and frontline scouts. Their work provided the specific intelligence that made local military victories possible. Liberation required the efforts of the entire population. To tell the full history of the war, we must recognize the women who gathered the intelligence and fought in the field to secure the nation's freedom.